Hey guys, Joe here from JCS-Charting. This is what it looks like when smart money is simply not buying the dips anymore. You're seeing the smart money flow here at the bottom of DAX. Here's that index. We were already identifying that negative divergence with these all-time highs that ended up in that decline, and we got that little dipper into the 1st of August. But since we reached that low here of smart money, it's simply not picking up. It's staying at these lows while DAX is not far away from these all-time highs. That tells me a bigger move to the downside is still in the making, but that doesn't mean we are seeing all-time highs probably before. Let's hop into that. By the way, that data I just showed was provided by my partner Wall Street Korea. Lots of great data packages you can have a look at, and they are very useful. I would like to start off with the volatility of DAX, the so-called VDAX, because I was quite off there from my last update. I said after this pop-up here, there's usually a second pop-up followed by that. I'm still waiting for that, by the way. That doesn't mean volatility is able to make a lower low, and by now I think we are going to see that we are running into that next cycle low, which is suggested around the 21st of August. Couple of months ago, actually, I was saying that in the best case we're gonna hit that blue line and that red dashed line here in July. That didn't happen neither. So I would like to see volatility to drop back into that 15-ish area before we see that second pop up in volatility. DAX H4 time frame JFD indication, so this indication runs all the time. I was showing that descending broadening wedge here in blue from the very beginning to my members. I was showing that right here on the 1st of August. Lots of fear on that day, lots of buying from JCS-Charting on that day as well. Unfortunately, we sold all our or most our long positions just by hitting 24,000. After that another push, I started selling, not at the best entry, I must say, and I started hedging quite early here in the middle of last week, or it was actually on Tuesday. And this little dive here actually saved me a bit because I was selling all shorts in quite good profits before we started rallying again to trigger that descending broadening wedge right here. So that pattern is active. That's usually a descending broadening wedge. It's usually used as a consolidation pattern in the trend up. That green sequence is here on the right that triggered a very long time ago, sometime in July, above 24,315 for minimum targets of 24,667 to 24,809. Note this 127%. It has a high probability, as high as 94% of being hit. And this one still has a high probability of 85%, the 138. To be hit at 24,809. So personally, I'm flat at DAX. I'm not holding any positions right now on the intermediate swings. I'm just having one very big long-term position from that correction in April, somewhere at 19,425, I believe it was. However, as I said, these here remain my min targets, and by the way, 25,021 matches that gamma exposure I was talking about, and it hasn't changed. It was building up all the time here, while DAX was basically just running sideways, and that level became already magnet, 25,021. There's also a possibility that we get that crazy push next week before. I still believe we are seeing a larger correction. I don't believe that correction here, that was the summer correction at all, or whatever you want to call it, autumn correction. I don't think we are done right here. Smart money is not buying these dips, or didn't buy that dip at all. So I think we're going to see a larger move to the downside, but don't exclude that we run up to 25k first before we turn around. We continue with the NASDAQ. You see here data again from Wall Street Korea. It's the advancing declining line of stocks, considering the 20 days momentum. So it considers the last 20 days only. And of course, especially the NASDAQ is very uneven in their weightings, because you have such these large market cap players like Apple, Tesla, and so on. And especially Apple and Tesla had a large rally in the last 2 weeks, and that causes these indicators to flash. However, that is still a very large divergence. It is a triple divergence by now, because NASDAQ has made new all-time highs right here, and that is the third time we are hitting a lower high at that indicator. And again, we have a look at the NASDAQ H4, the 4-hour time frame, the JFD indication, and we are seeing here that zigzag rally to new all-time highs. We are triggering that green sequence for higher levels, 23,680, and we were hitting the first min target of 23,957, and then we pulled back. Most of the time when that happens, and we are retesting that green 100%, the 138% at 24,069 follows. That happens quite a lot, especially at NASDAQ, and that theory stays on as long as we stay above 23,528 for NASDAQ. By the way, that here on the 13th of August is still in the time frame of our last astro turning date, which was the 11th. So we have to give it a tolerance of plus minus 3 days. So that decline is actually happening under a bearish divergence, because S&P 500 made an all-time high the day after, and also the Dow did, by the way. So we are still having that intermarket bearish divergence. By the way, I'm still short, but I'm hedged. Hedging means I was wrong, or my entries have been not the best. So I'm trying to rebalance my position. That's very important. That's part of money management. This is also described at my channel, by the way. I have a lot of tutorials. I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. So once you notice something is getting completely off, you have to do something. Of course, I'm not telling you that on Twitter or on YouTube. I have paid customers, so this is for my Discord members only. S&P 500, also the 4-hour time frame, JFD indication, and both got everything under control on this time frame if they stay above 6409. The hourly chart needs levels above the lows from Friday to stay positive or to keep bullish momentum up. As I said, just a comparison to the NASDAQ, the S&P 500 made that all-time high a day after. So we have that bearish divergence, but we are not in the time frame really of a so-called astro turning dates for proper reversal. So I assume, since we triggered that blue sequence here at 64.39 for higher, 65.01 is what has a probability of 94% to be hit. So I assume we are going higher again, and again I'm also short here, but I'm hedged. That means again my entries weren't the best, or I was simply wrong. I was actually, for this one, I didn't expect that we are squeezing that much, like probably 90% of all other market participants. But then you have to do something, you have to become active. Again, everything is explained at my channel. Dow Jones, JFD indication again, 4-hour time frame. Here we got a pattern actually, because the Dow was selling and was behaving a bit different, and then out of a sudden it made new all-time highs as well. So we got that descending, broadening top pattern, as the name already tells us, a top pattern. It might be a topping pattern or a consolidation. Most of the time, whenever that kind of pattern occurs at the Dow or the S&P, they like to use it as a consolidation in the trend, and the trend is still up. We are missing the third touch here at the upper trend line to call it a broadening top. That would be the trigger point. I can tell you 45,223 triggered already on Friday for higher. So the Dow actually switched to bullish. I was very bearish on that one, and I closed all my positions, hedged these positions, and I actually closed them on profit. So I'm flat at the Dow, like at DAX. And another thing I like to show is a Dow theory. You see the transportations at the bottom and the Dow industrials. So the Dow Jones, everyone is looking at here at the top. We made that slide all-time high at 35,203. This is a weekly chart, by the way. And here that red line is showing us a divergence. We have the industrials kept making all-time highs, while the transportations are actually far away from that. They're actually still behind the November highs from last year. So that divergence usually builds up over time. It takes usually a few days, even weeks, up to 3 to 4 weeks I've seen in the past. So next week we could see another lower high at the transportations, while the Dow tries to break to the upside. And the last chart, the daily cash chart of the Dow Jones, you see that inverted shoulder pattern, very nice neckline. Here I was going for a back test of that neckline. That never happened, and let me just zoom in here because there were two Popguns. This one didn't pop at all, and then the Dow was making another one right here, and this one popped up straight away to the upside. First application, second. We are on the third. Then on Friday they just made the high and sold off, and we were hitting, and here you see how these sequences work very accurately. 43,372 was the trigger a while ago. That was that candle right here which triggered or was telling me we are running much, much higher. And then we got a beautiful back test of that 100% in combination with that bottoming pattern, that inverted shoulder head shoulder. And now we were hitting the first min target. Remember, 94% probability, 45,211, and we rejected. So this level is known by certain market participants. 45,954 is the second min target. Still has a very high probability of being hit. And this is what it looks like when you join my server. So once you get via my website, you pay via upgrade chat, either via PayPal, credit card, or whatever you like. That server opens for you, and you usually start at that welcome site. Welcome to JCS-Charting. Here are some terms and conditions, a disclaimer of course. But then, I know most of you don't like reading, but I really recommend you to go through that stuff. It took me a lot of time to build that channel and to explain everything. So please go through how this works, thread intro, read this first. I gave them a name for a reason. There's even a video down here which explains you how this channel works. And this channel is also for education guide. There are lots of tutorials I want you to make better, and I want you guys to think. And for example, this is for advanced membership only, trading psychology. I write kind of essays about very important things: hedging, volatility, money management. Astro Basics is not published yet. Financial instrument knowledge. Know your instruments. And there's a lot of stuff to read. inconvenient truths. I talk about what every trader has been through. Believe me, I have been through that as well. I blew up accounts as well, but you have to read that stuff and you have to face the inconvenient truths first. So once you get in there, there's here, for example, I read this first channel, how I do my setups, how it works. Here are the channels with these different threads. They are in order with a time frame, so there's actually a very clean lineup. And then you find stocks. Apple, we talked about that. Yeah, this has been in the chart for a while. Didn't touch that red zone quite well, but that projection worked out very nicely. 220 was our trigger point, and we went higher to hit 234. I expect at least 239 in combination with that green target line for Apple. Tesla, the same. We had that triangle here. Pulled back, didn't really expect that large pullback, but now we have that triangle consolidation, and I assume 374 should be next at Tesla to trigger that blue sequence. Note 344 has already been triggered higher for 380 and 394, or even 425 as bonus for Tesla. And by the way, at the bottom there are tutorials, most of them for advanced memberships only, but for example, let's go to symmetrical triangle. Everything is explained in here from the beginning, how you calculate these, how these patterns trigger, where are they used, what index is like that, descending triangle, same thing with nice charts, and so on. I explain cycles. I'm just about to finish Elliott waves. This is the impulse chapter. See, as the beginning of my introduction to EV, Elliott waves, correction, zigzag, flats, triangles, combinations will be published soon. So there's a lot of tutorials here. Even my sequences are explained at my channels, how to trade with those. I wanted to talk about gold as well. After we finished that 5-wave impulse, let me just find where I zoomed out, this one here. We were looking for that finish here, and I must say, a bit early, but I actually shorted gold very nicely. We had that bearish wave wedge shown here in red. We had that red sequence which triggered right here, so we knew the min targets should be hit very soon. We hit the first min target, the second min target, and then you see again how these sequences react. Some market participants know about our levels, and then we finished right on the dot, 3335 for gold. We went even deeper, and then I came up with a new sequence. And now we have to be very careful for the next ADT on gold. Gold can be a very, very big buy in August still. But just for the case we drop a lot. Here I came out with another nice count. We were looking for an ABC and then for another flush, and because that red sequence triggered here, by the way, and that is what happens. We got the ABC leg, and then we went for more selling to the downside. The H4 got a subcycle low coming up. I'm not showing that. That's for members only. Also, the daily chart is actually bullish. As long as it stays above a certain level, we are still above that. So as long as we stay above, well, I can tell you at 3,300, as long as we stay above there, gold is staying bullish, and it could get very bullish at gold for the rest of the year. That's about it. I hope you liked that video. Next time I try to cover cryptos as well. So XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, also Solana. On Bitcoin and Ethereum we were quite underwater, but they turned, and I still think we are taking out profits there very soon with our short. So leave me a like or a nice comment. I see you next week. I see my members tomorrow. Have a nice remaining Sunday evening. Bye bye.